There we go.
Oh shit! Here we go again.
Wrong screen. Hello, everyone. This is Mr. Amazing, and you're watching More Than Amazing, the only podcast on YouTube.
That's it. It's the only one on YouTube.
It is the only one.
It's the only one.
It is. No, absolutely. And welcome. Enjoy your stay. We have tea, metaphorical and literal. Mostly metaphorical, though. You think we'll get as many viewers as we did last time?
I don't know, maybe.
We're hovering around 58 right now.
You just gotta wait a little longer.
True.
You gotta get really spicy and icy week on Twitter.
True. I'm gonna post it on my story on Instagram.
Fuck yeah. I'll post it on mine too.
Well, it's gone on my story at least.
Yeah, it works.
Well, as you can see by the thumbnail, today's topics of interest include ICE, Twitter failing us multiple times yesterday, and it's repeated failure today. I'm actually very unhappy with it. I'm very unhappy with the state of the website. It's not good.
Absolute state.
Yeah, it's sad. Honestly, exclamation point.
Sad.
Exclamation point. Yeah, it's just not. It's not where we want to be right now. In general, not at all. But I figured before we get into any of that, I could take some audience questions. If you want to ask me anything right now, you go to curiouscatt.me/MrAmazingYT. Some people already asked some. They're in the Discord, so I'll read some off. Most of these are anonymous, so I'm not going to read the names.
Yeah, alright.
So, somebody asked, do you have any favorite poets? Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go?
You go, because I don't know any poets.
Oh, wait, I haven't introduced you. Shoot.
People know who I am.
Well, I'll introduce you again, just because why not?
Right.
This is Pretzel. He's a patron of
Hey, what's up?
mine. Known him for a very long time. 2-3 years now?
2, I think.
Yeah. God, the death grips in the background.
Sorry, that's my ringtone.
God. Yeah, okay. So, favorite poets. Let's see. Well, I mean, Milton's always a good one. I mean, Paradise Lost is an incredible work. Let's see. I don't really read that much poetry. I guess if you count Homer a poet, you know, the Iliad and the Odyssey are classics. Yeah, that's all I have, really. I don't read much poetry.
I was about to say, I'm so, like, I don't read poetry, ever.
I'll be reading quite a bit next semester. Like, I have to buy, like, the entire collected works of Shakespeare. Well, his what's it called?
Dude.
Not his, God, like, why are these words not coming to me? Not his plays.
Discography?
No, the name of the type of poem that he wrote. I just can't think of it. Written in iambic pentameter. I can't think of it. Fuck. Well, anyway, I have to buy a collected book of all his poems. Sonnets. There it is. Yeah. And I gotta buy some other stuff, too. I actually just got an email for it the other day. It's, like, quite a bit of stuff. But I guess, who are your favorite poetic prose writers, then?
Well, fuck. I mean, I guess Shakespeare. Is that a cop-out? I don't know. I never hated reading Shakespeare in, like, high school when my peers did.
But
I
see,
never fucking hated it.
Shakespeare wrote his plays in poetry, though. So he didn't write any prose that we know of.
Right. I don't know. I'm, like, such, like, a nonfiction reader. Like, I almost never read when it's not, like, learning something or reading, like, a history book or some shit like that.
That is a shame, because there's a lot of good literature out there. God, I'm trying to think of one right now. What did I have to read last semester? Well, I mean, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I didn't read that last semester, but, like, it's an absolutely poetic work, even though it's written entirely in prose. Like,
Right.
have you ever read it?
No, I think you've mentioned that to me before, though. Like, it's written entirely in prose and shit.
Yeah.
But I've never, like, I've never actually like gone through and read any of this stuff.
Yeah, because like the way they describe the main character's interactions with the world is, I don't want to say it's entirely poetic, but he is like some kind of schizophrenic, and he's like silent throughout the entire book, so you're hearing his internal dialogues the whole time, and they're just filled with metaphors and poetic turns of phrase. So it's really cool.
Fuck yeah. Sorry, I don't know. I'm so bad at like classical literature and prose, and like I'm like I always did good in like writing classes and shit, but like I'm so like not the like as liberal artsy as I am. I'm just so not like the prose type, the poetry type. I'm so bad at it.
That's a shame. That's a very big shame.
It is a shame. I don't like reading it too much either. Like I'd love to get into it, but it's just like because there's so much art there, and it just fucking
Yeah.
bounces right out of my skull.
We are losing viewership fast, so clearly people are not interested.
Let's talk about more controversial shit.
Yeah.
Let's just jump right into it.
Let's just
dude.
go into the questions.
We'll just fucking go into it.
Yeah, let's talk about Epstein.
Fuck it, let's do it.
I got an article on my phone earlier today, and it was like, the allegations against Epstein are fueling conspiracy theorists.
Bro, the DOJ has known that he's like a weird pedophile sex cult guy for like 10 years now.
I know.
They've had the information to arrest him, and they just didn't.
Absolutely. And like, as I was looking through the article, I was thinking, well, maybe those conspiracy theorists are actually right. Like, if there really are this many ties to so many people in the government and so many people in the media that are doing these obscene acts all the time that are illegal, completely illegal, and they don't get caught, is it really a conspiracy at that point?
Well, I think what a lot of people like, there is like some cadence to the theory that like you know, like the rich and powerful are in cahoots, because they are, where it's like rich people conglomerate with other rich people. So I mean, it's just like that one photo of like Hillary Clinton and David Duke together.
Right.
It's like they were probably just at the same place at the same time, got a photo together, and suddenly that makes the national news.
I mean, we talked about Mitch McConnell last time around. He has a photo with David Duke.
Yeah, exactly. It was probably just like some fucking congressional fundraising dinner or like some shit like that. I mean, as shitty of a person as David Duke is, he
connected.
is politically active, and he's connected.
Absolutely.
He was politically active for a long time, and he still is.
I mean, so is what's his name, Richard Spencer. Not as much, but he's still absolutely.
Richard Spencer is more connected with like the intellectual community, like with his think tank and shit. Like
he's a think tank.
Yeah, National Policy Institute.
I have never even heard of this.
Yeah, it's not a...
What, do they publish articles like any other think tank does?
Yeah.
Because I can't believe they'd be informing policy in any way.
That's the disturbing part, Shay.
What policies are they actually informing?
Well, I mean, if you go to their Wikipedia page...
National Policy Institute.
It got their tax exempt status actually got revoked recently.
Oh man, this is not good. This is like too clean. Hold on. Yeah, I need to pull this up on screen because this is absurd. Let's go to standby quick. Pull this up.
Well, they publish briefs like Cato, where they're like, "Oh, here's our analysis on the current situation and why NATO doesn't need to exist anymore."
Oh, that's what I was wondering. Like, do they do that kind of thing? Like, they're going for this Cato-style Metro logo that really just looks non-threatening in any kind of way whatsoever. Oh, man. It's crazy to think that people are doing this kind of thing.
Yeah. Oh. And, I mean, it literally takes no effort to start a think tank, so...
Yeah. I was actually, reading, I forget where I read it. It might have been a Chomsky video that I watched instead, but it was talking about whether it was Chomsky or not. I don't quite remember, but the guy was talking about how, or no, it was in a video that was a documentary on neoliberalism and the formation of think tanks surrounding Mises and Hayek and all those guys. How those think tanks were literally started to influence policy in a neoliberal fashion. Prior to the neoliberal movement, the idea of a think tank was just not even a thing. The academic establishment was what beforehand would have influenced policy.
Yeah.
So,
and I think the problem is it's like think tanks became a thing because rich people. I don't want to use the term rich people because that's shitty. It's like grouping a lot of people together. Because powerful individuals who wanted to influence policy but had no way to.
Right.
The only way they could do that was through academia. They wanted to legitimize what they wanted. Like, academia is a lot of like, you know, taking a rake to the things you find until you organize it in a way you like.
Absolutely.
At least as far as like think tanks and policy contributions are concerned. So like, if you like commission a study, you can like kind of shove around the data until you get what you want, or just be like, oh, he's inconclusive, even though it's like very much conclusive, or basically just warp the algebra until your r squared gets to where you want it to be. Your margin of error just fucking shrinks or whatever. Like, eliminate data you don't like to see and release this as a policy brief and be like, all right, this is our position. And that's sort of the thing that happened in the 70s and 80s.
Of course.
Where like rich people wanted to influence policy in a way they wanted to see fit. However, the only people that the government would listen to was academia at the time.
Right.
Or themselves.
But I mean,
or commission reports.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, even into the 70s and 80s, you still have things like the Trilateral Commission publishing papers. I don't know if the Bilderberg Group publishes anything, but the Council on Foreign Relations, too, publishes papers. I don't think you would call them think tanks, but they're certainly influencing domestic policy.
I would say, like, policy... we'll use the hip term, policy influencers.
Oh, Jesus almighty. Policy... NGOs.
NGOs.
Oh, my God. Can't stand people like that. Jesus almighty. But yeah, so it's all definitely there. It makes me wonder, though, why doesn't, like, Jacobin, you know, the magazine, why don't they have a think tank or something like that?
I think they do pollster. They're a pollster, right?
I'm not sure. If you go on Real Clear Politics, I don't think they actually list Jacobin, because Real Clear has, you know, a list of, like, all the actual people that perform polls. If you go...
I think their big thing is they're kind of like the New York Magazine, where, like, they're kind of like a quarterly type shit, where they run shit. Like, I know Zizek has written for Jacobin before.
Yeah.
And, like, a lot of famous people and a lot of famous philosophers and political scientists and shit have written for, like, the New York Magazine and stuff. Where,
Right.
like, they kind of, like, sell copies based on, like, their special guest, their guest writer.
Right. Yeah, makes sense then, because I'm looking here and I'm seeing YouGov, Economist, Politico, Reuters, Gallup,
Yeah.
ABC News, Quinnipiac.
Yeah.
Quinnipiac. What a name. But yeah, so I guess that explains why then.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the other side of the Epstein scandal, to go back to that specifically, is the fact that Acosta was involved.
Yeah, and what is his... Do you know his connection to it? Because, like...
Yeah, I do. So,
okay, because I was, like, reading about that, and I kind of, like, didn't quite see... Because I know, like, they were connected somehow, like, they were personal friends or whatever, but, like, I didn't really understand how Epstein was, like, directly connected to the Trump administration other than, like, through money.
So, what the connection was that Acosta was actually the person who oversaw the bargain, the plea deal that Epstein took part in the last time he was actually accused, and so Acosta was part of the reason that Epstein got off as easy as he did last time.
Right.
Which calls into question what was the relationship Epstein had with Acosta, and now since Acosta was handpicked by Trump, what is the relationship both of these people now have to Donald Trump?
Right.
I mean,
okay.
When you look at, I actually read a Business Insider article on it, and what they had reported was that Trump was only on the, I'm not even going to say the name, the Young Woman Express, as it has been misaffectionately called, disgusting name. He wrote on that once, but some other people that he has connections with wrote on it many more times. It's completely terrible. I can't even believe it.
I mean, and I think it's funny that, like, people are like, oh, it's kind of ironic that Donald Trump couldn't take himself down, but yet this random fucking dude that no one's heard of until, like, yesterday, or maybe someone heard of him in the 90s when he first got busted for this type of shit. Like, this could be the guy that, like, actually might do some of the Trump administration in.
I mean, it should do the entirety of the American elite in, as far as I'm concerned. We're talking about sex trafficking here. We are talking about...
It's one of those things, dude, that's, like, it's so fucking disgusting to think about, but the Department of Justice has had information on Epstein and what the fuck he's been doing for, like, 10 years. Probably enough to get him in prison.
Oh, yeah.
and that's it. Like they just don't fucking like, it's so disturbing to me that they've had all this information on him for it's just sort of like recently the FBI lost their files on like white supremacists.
Yeah.
It's like, are you kidding me? Like, really? You lost the files. Okay. Like, it's sympathetic elites protecting elites. And there's something that's not really covered in English news for some reason, but recently the German SEK, which is like their sort of version of like FBI and SWAT mixed together,
Right.
sort of like their special team. It was uncovered that there's about 300 fucking agents involved in a far-right terrorist plot. They ordered lime to quick dissolve bodies, and they ordered about 300 body bags. And they intended to murder about 300 left-wing German politicians in the middle of the night on the same night, take their bodies, dump them in the same place, and quick dissolve them with lye.
And these people were involved in the U.S. government?
No, not the U.S. government. They were involved in the German government, like high up in the German government, the SEK. They were high up involved in like... And Germany has problems with this too, kind of like the FBI does, where like the... what is it called? I'm sorry, German viewers. Your fucking constitutional police. It starts with a V, Verfremdungsschutz or something like that. But like they've been like dumping resources into watching groups like Anti-Fascist Action, like Die Linke groups, the MLPD, Marxist-Leninist Party Deutschland. Even though like the AfD, the NPD, and like a lot of far-right parties are far more of a threat in modern Germany. Like, I mean, like I'll admit, in the 90s, like right after the DDR collapse, like the left-wing groups were pretty threatening. But like they've all but dissolved now.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't see any leftist front in Germany whatsoever. I mean, unless you're trying to call Christian, the Christian Democratic Party.
I mean, Die Linke is up there, but they fight with everybody so fucking much. They can barely stay in power with how much they fight.
Right.
Like, they infight so much.
Right. I mean, that, and they have a coalition system over there, so, what are you really expecting? There's not really going to be one party really dominating at that point. At least I don't think. Though that does bring up an interesting case. Have you noticed any of the small coalitions that are forming here in the States in the Democratic Party?
Yeah, there's what is it, the Justice Democrats?
Yeah.
That's like AOC, Omar, and the one other girl that I can't remember her name. I'm so sorry, I can't remember her name.
Yeah. It's interesting. That, and also that some of the candidates like AOC actually have membership with the DSA. Like, it's very curious to me how we're seeing these splinter groups form within the two-party system. Like, as somebody who, God, I hate to say I studied U.S. history and U.S. politics. That's so pretentious, but like, I have read about it. Right?
You're close. You're like close to like you know what's going on. Yeah.
It's like that's not something that we've really seen before. I mean, unless you're counting like the Tea Party or something like that, or maybe like the Dixiecrats down in the South. But even then, I don't know. That's still, those were still constituency-based things. This is, I mean, arguably this is constituency-based as well, but the shift in what that constituency wants, I think, is really large, as opposed to what it was in the past.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard about that shit from 3 Arrows, too. We had a really long discussion about it in his Discord.
Damn. What did it entail?
It was just mainly like, holy fucking shit, this is absolutely fucking terrifying that a bunch of German police officers stole a bunch of weapons, 300 body bags, and a bunch of lime and intended to murder a bunch of people.
Yeah.
Like how viscerally real we like that is, and like the only things you see is like a rumor that quick drying cement milkshakes got thrown at people, and like that's just a rumor that's unconfirmed. And then like right-wing cops are literally about to go murder a bunch of politicians, and somehow it doesn't fucking matter. Like it's one of the things. Like, I think we have a priority issue here.
Right.
But
well, I mean, I think what's good to see overall is that these types of plots are really being stopped before they really come to fruition. And I think now that we're seeing more surveillance by governments overall, that kind of thing is really being enabled more so.
Yeah, and I think I think it's like, honestly, like I don't want to say it's like, I don't want to like say it's like the final death cry of like a fascist type thing, but like it seems to me all of these things are like the final death rattles of fascism finally fucking off and dying where it should have been in like 50 years ago,
right,
60 years ago, where like it's kind of bouncing back a little bit, just a little bit.
I think it is most definitely the beginning of the end of any kind of private resistance to political institutions. Just because, I mean, Weber's classic definition of the government as a corporation with a monopoly on land use. Like, that monopoly is now so large, and it has allowed the accrual of so much capital in the state that the idea of any kind of alternative coming forward, a la fascism, or even, some kind of paramilitary on the left as well, I don't think that's ever really going to happen again. How could it?
Yeah, I don't, like, it's scary to me, like, how much, like, far right political movements are sort of becoming mainstream.
Right.
Like, it's worrying that, like, ideas that even 10 years ago would be like, yo, that's like ethno-states. Like, the fact that has somehow become, even on the far corner of, like, mainstream right-wing ideology, is fucking terrifying and disgusting, frankly. Like, the idea that races should be segregated once again as peeking into the modern political discourse is a little bit scary.
What I wonder, though, is, like, where is that really coming from? Where is the origin of that kind of line of thinking? Because
I'd love to figure that one out too, because I'm sure it's like a deep dive into Wikipedia that you could probably find, like, some random it was that one. Yeah, it probably started with, like, the Southern strategy, honestly.
You think?
I would imagine it started with, like, the Southern strategy.
What would you say? So, like, what exactly was the Southern strategy? Like, just to appeal to the South, the evangelicals?
Yeah, it was like the Southern strategy. The guy who came up with it, I gotta find his name. But the Southern strategy was essentially trying to flip. So, like, right after segregation was a thing, there's a lot of Southern Democrats who hated, like, desegregation, but didn't really like Republican policy. So the Southern strategy was a way that the Republicans tried to sort of flip the envelope a little bit, and they tried to warp their policy views to more closely support these people, to get them to flip from the Democratic Party, who had just recently flipped on civil rights with Lyndon Johnson. They tried to, like, sort of warp their thing to be like, okay, maybe that's when the whole states' rights thing started too.
Well, right,
like,
that's what I was talking about before with the Dixiecrat trend.
Yeah, it was like, once the Dixiecrats kind of got left behind by their own party, the Republicans started adopting this, like, oh, states' rights. Like, oh, yeah, states' rights. You can do what you want in your state. And just to secure votes. And then they did that sort of shit again in, like, the 90s with the evangelicals voting, like, oh, all this bad shit, demons and, whatever else the fuck they did.
Right. I really hate to say it, but it really is a shame that states' rights really is one of those things that really just has become a calling card for racism. Because, I mean, in theory, states' rights for most things are really the way we should be running, a federalist system of government. But now that idea of federal bottom-up power is kind of dead.
Yeah. I mean, I don't like states' rights as an institution. I don't think it's a good idea.
Well, what do you mean? Why shouldn't it? Why shouldn't it be that way?
Well, it depends to me. Because, like, I think things like civil rights are a federal thing. Like, you are protected by the Constitution. I don't think things like discrimination laws should be left to the states. Like, I think the federal government should have supreme power over the states to be like, look, you can't fucking do that. Same with, like, Roe v. Wade and, like, all those abortion laws, where it's like, they shouldn't be allowed to do that. They shouldn't be allowed to challenge those things. Those are federal mandated rules that the government has decided are something that you have the right to access to. So the states shouldn't be able to restrict that.
Sure.
Sure. What is the differentiation between, like, positive rights and negative rights or something, where, like, positive rights is you're given, negative rights is, like, are taken away?
Yeah, so positive is freedom to, negative is freedom from.
I think the federal government should do freedom from, and the states should do freedom to.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
But see, that's not how we run things, especially after the New Deal, and then even more with the Great Society. Like,
right.
And people would argue that's because the federal government has the ability to collect more taxes, greater income stream, thus greater distribution. But the whole damn thing is just screwed up, in my opinion, because in that case, then you're pretty much setting the states up for failure, as far as I'm concerned, because then you're really just saying, why does it even matter that we have states at that point? Why not just let the federal government do everything?
Right. And yeah, it's a hard thing to do, because it's like you want to maintain that sort of, like, good balance, but at the same time you don't want things like that happens where, like, Mississippi is just abjectly ass.
Right.
In a state like Colorado is, like, pretty good. So it's like it's one of those things that's like, what Florida doesn't have income tax, but we also take a fuckload of money from the federal government because we can't pay our bills.
Right.
So we don't have an income tax, so a lot of people move here.
Mhm.
However, our social systems are completely fucking strained because we don't have an income tax. So we have to take a bunch of money from the federal government to pay for our income tax, or to pay like what the income tax would cover.
And it's similar here where I live. Like, we don't take that much money from the federal government, but like we have such struggles dealing with funding our roads, funding the budget, that every year inevitably there's going to have to be some stipend taken from the government. And it's just a shame.
Yeah.
And what really gets me is that's in part by design, by what past presidents and past Congresses had actually done to the states. Because, like, you've heard about how like seatbelt laws were enacted, right?
No, I've heard this before, but I don't remember like the overarching idea.
So the way it was done was essentially the federal government not tricked, but they heavily pushed the states into passing what it wanted. And they did this by giving states that passed seatbelt laws more money than those that didn't. So essentially, if the states disagreed with the federal government, they were screwed. Or they didn't get as much money as the other states, which would inevitably lead to inequality. So it was essentially, the federal government would have called it a race to the top to get everything sorted. But what you really just had is a bunch of local municipalities and state governments doing exactly what the federal government wants without really any consent by, the customs of whatever people were already doing there. And I think that's the only one. No. There was one other thing, too. It was also raising the... no, that might have been the only one. There's one other thing that is trying to come to mind. It might have been the age at which you can drink alcohol, but I think that's federal law. I'm not sure.
I want to say alcohol is federal now.
Yeah, I think it is.
Because it used to not be. Because
Yeah.
when my dad was a kid, he remembers when he was in college, the drinking age in his state was 18, and they raised it to 19, and then the federal government raised it to 21. At least I think that's what he told me. That's what I remember happening.
I believe it. Because there were a few other things that were like that, but...
Right.
I don't know. It bothers me so much because it's like we're never going to be able to fix that. I mean, we are so far down this rabbit hole of the federal government taking power away from the states. Like,
Yeah. No, I get that.
what can you do?
Nothing.
It's like even a
Living in
worthless debate at this point.
Oh yeah, I want to go back quickly to the Germany thing because yeah, there was a far right murder on a German politician from these. I don't know if it was the CDU. I thought it was the SPD. I thought he was an SPD member. But basically, some guy climbed this politician's fence, walked into his home, and shot him point blank in the back of the head.
Oh yeah, you told me about that.
Like
I'm
because
pretty sure.
yeah, and he turned himself in. He was like, yeah, I fucking hate that guy because he made pro-refugee comments.
Yeah, and I think it isn't fair to say this is only a thing that happens on the right. Like, I was watching a documentary from the guy that created Capitalism: A Love Story, Michael Moore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Michael Moore. I'm hit or miss on Michael Moore. I like some of his stuff. Some of his I like his documentaries and like the conclusion he makes. I'm like, huh? So I have a love-hate relationship with him.
Yeah, no, his newer stuff I'm not really a fan of, but his older stuff is all right. And in one of those documentaries where he's actually discussing capitalism, he documents how a group of leftist protesters actually went to the house of a CEO who was admittedly doing some pretty shady things in his company. Now, he wasn't aware of the entirety of those things, but they were camped out in front of his house. They were banging on his windows, and so they were really trying to mess with him. Now, of course, they didn't kill him, but even so, I mean, it still is some kind of harassment to trespass on somebody's property like that. So it is a thing that does happen on both sides, to be clear.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've pretty much exhausted that topic.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't really have anything more to say. I mean, I think I've expressed my thoughts on that one.
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
We could probably go to the citizenship question now.
Yeah. I think I have a good take on that one.
Yeah, you can
So,
start then, because
I'll start. I'll give a quick TLDR for everyone.
All right.
So the citizenship question was basically, should there be a question of are you a U.S. citizen on the census? Because every household gets the census. It doesn't matter if you're a permanent resident, if you're just a student, if you're, everyone gets a census and they have to fill it out and they have to send it in. Otherwise, it's a crime. So one of the questions on there was going to be, like, are you a U.S. citizen? And through some political maneuvering, a lot of people thought it was going to be like a question of like to count illegal immigrants or something like that. But it was I disagree with the premise of the question just because I think it would prevent accurate data from being represented.
Right.
You know, because if someone who is illegal per se gets that in the mail and they see that question, they might not answer.
Of course
They
not.
might get scared.
Or they're going to lie.
Or they're gonna lie. Yeah, and they might get scared and they might not turn it in, or they, So there's, I mean, I don't think there's any personal identifying information on the census other than like how many people live in your home.
Right.
Are you a citizen? And I guess per se it could be used by ICE, and I think we can use this to transfer into that topic too.
I mean, of course it absolutely could, because when that data is tracked out, if ICE sees an aggregation of certain points where people are saying yes more than in other places, I wonder where ICE is doing the next raid.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's think hard about that one. Oh, I know. It's where all the points aggregate, clearly. I mean, it goes without saying that it would absolutely be used by ICE. But, I mean, I think if they want to put that question on the census, it should be very clear that there should be not only an incentive for doing so, but a reason to do so in and of itself, that like these people will not be criminalized for saying that. There shouldn't be fear for having to answer such a question, which there clearly is now for a host of political reasons.
Yeah.
So
and so we'll use this to segue into the ICE thing. So my thing with the ICE thing was like I was reading on these raids, like I know one of them was like in El Paso, and it was like on a fucking bus, like it was like a Greyhound from El Paso to like Houston, and a bunch of ICE officers got onto the bus and demanded to see proof of citizenship from people, which to me is a big red fucking violation of the Fourth Amendment.
no, it
Like you
absolutely is.
you can't walk onto a fucking bus and be like, all right, papers please. Like that fundamentally goes against the Fourth Amendment.
No.
You have to have a reasonable search and seizure, and frankly, being brown on a bus in El Paso isn't fucking a reasonable suspicion.
No, of course not. It really is one of those things where, and I think we mentioned this on one of the last streams, people are going to say, oh, well, the Fourth Amendment doesn't extend to illegal immigrants because they're committing a crime. And no, the Supreme Court has ruled that that is the case. So I don't know. I don't know why that argument doesn't get brought up, that it, is a flagrant constitutional breach, that it is something the court should be correcting. And the bigger question is, why are they not correcting that? Because that is about as flagrant, like I said, of a breach as is possible, if it really is documented as you're saying.
I know the ACLU went after him. I don't remember like what exactly came of it, but I know for a fact that the ACLU was all over that shit for a long time. Actually, this happened recently. I'm gonna use an anecdote here. So, one of my family friends is Mexican. His dad was born in Texas and his mom was born in Mexico, but he's a citizen here. And he's very Mexican. Obviously, he looks Mexican. He speaks fluent Spanish. And he married a white woman. And so they're going to get their passports. And so they needed a birth certificate to get the passport.
Right.
So they go in and get the documents. They went in separately. They didn't go at the same time because, he works, she works, so they had like different schedules.
Sure.
Hers got approved. She got her passport. Cool. Fair. His got denied because apparently the person who filled out his birth certificate was, quote, known for giving fake birth certificates to illegal immigrants. That's such a bullshit reason, dude. That is like straight up the fact that he's brown and he wanted a fucking passport.
Sure.
Like, that's it. I mean, I don't see a way that could possibly be a reason to deny someone a passport.
But yeah,
we think that's something that happened. The dude's like 40, so like something that happened 40 years ago.
Sure.
It's just one of those things that's like, I mean, fuck, we run concentration camps, dude. Like, we currently run concentration camps in Texas.
Well, I mean, one of the things that I take issue with that assessment of what we actually call those detention centers is, one, what do we do with these immigrants as opposed to putting them in a detention center? Where are they going to go for screening?
Right. And this is one of those things that's like, I agree with you there.
But
I know it's a problem. Go ahead, sorry.
At the same time, there's evidence that Democrats did not fund these detention centers because of the concentration camp stigma. And so what do we
I haven't
do?
heard
Like,
that.
what do we do next?
I
You
was saying,
know?
I haven't heard that before. I mean, I don't
just
not
heard
believe
about it
it.
today, actually.
Yeah, I haven't. That just sounds like a campaign ad, but yeah, I bet I'm sure it's something like that has happened, where like maybe they're withholding funding or whatever to make it worse. I don't know, but my thing is like, we can talk about the legality of this issue of what we should do with people who are illegally in this country after we solve the humanitarian crisis we have inadvertently created by shoving a bunch of people into these fucking inhumane conditions.
Right.
That's my thing. Is it's like we need to solve this humanitarian crisis the United States of America has created in our own borders with people who aren't citizens, with people who, frankly, in my opinion, should be given at least basic sustenance and basic living conditions, which they're not being given.
But the issue is, if this is like a logistical problem where the government can really just not move quick enough to deal with the influx of people, what do we do? How do we do it? You know?
Open the borders, baby. No.
These people have to be screened, though. That's the thing.
I mean, national security arguments aren't. They don't have the validity they once did, because 80% of people who come into this country illegally fly here and overstay a vacation visa or something like that. Like that's, yeah. So most of the people captured in these ICE raids are those people. They're not people coming across the border. Most of those people get apprehended. And yeah, like I said, some of the people in the camps are asylum seekers who are waiting in like regulatory limbo.
Right.
Leave your door open nowadays, yelling you. That's such a stupid fucking argument, dude.
But
you wouldn't let people into your house. It's like, yeah, because I don't live in a like.
But at the same time, then the question is, if we're going to be letting so many people in,
right,
and we are going to be letting these, these guards go down more so, what do we do about people that are actually bringing drugs in? What do we do about people that are trafficking children into the country?
Well,
what about
77% of the people?
Right.
77% of the people who are drug traffickers are United States citizens.
Right.
Most of the people who are human trafficking are United States citizens. They use their connections here to facilitate these illegal acts. So, for example, someone who lives here already is probably smuggling all these people across the border because they probably advertise themselves as, oh, I have citizenship here. I have a home here. I can house you and I can get you across the border safely, you and your family across the border safely. So I think our best bet is, temporary. You can keep track of them too that way too. Like temporary, temporary permitting, like not quite a work visa, not like a visa, but like a temporary permit to stay in this country while your asylum application is processed. So like, oh, I want to apply for asylum. Okay, here's your temporary stay permit. You can work, and this permit will expire upon the rejection or approval of your asylum stay, because our asylum system is so scuffed.
Right.
We can't process enough applications as we're getting. So, why not let them? I mean, the crime rate that these people have is so incredibly low, and I think I've talked to you about that before off stream a couple times.
Yeah, you have.
Yeah, a lot of it's.
And I've read data about it. It is low.
Yeah, the National Bureau of Economic Research has found time and time again that immigrants don't cause more crime, especially refugees. People seeking safety from a place like Honduras, El Salvador, or wherever else have a very low crime rate. A great example of this is the Somali diaspora in Minnesota, that came here in the 90s when Somalia was having that big civil war. Right. Around 128,000 people came. They have a miraculously low crime rate in their community.
Yeah,
in fact, crime actually went down in the areas that they migrated to.
Yeah, I've read similar statistics about Mexican immigrants too. Immigrants coming in does actually seem to have a correlation with reduced crime rates.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, the war on drugs made this whole fucking thing a problem because they fund all of these operations, all these horrible things through smuggling. They smuggle drugs in and they smuggle guns out. They smuggle drugs and people in, and they smuggle money and money and guns out. That's how this pipeline works. And we blow so much fucking money on this, and we shove these people in prison for no reason. And then, it's one of those things that's incredible. Yeah, exactly. The black market for tobacco does exist because tax-free cigarettes are pretty commonly sold in like corner stores,
right?
Which is illegal.
Right.
But that's not nearly as detrimental as, yucking 16 pounds of marijuana on a bale on a child's back through the fucking desert in the middle of the night.
Right.
But
it's one of the things I do worry about with the decriminalization of drugs is the fact that, well, once we do that, we will inevitably fall into some kind of system that someone like Aldous Huxley predicted, like in Brave New World, where you are going to have people who are going to be, doctors may even say, take such and such a drug, you'll feel better, if that be the case. What if these types of companies that are selling these illicit drugs then get in line with pharma, and then that becomes the case where you may even be prescribed something like a psilocybin, which, arguably only is needed for extreme cases of depression and anxiety, when maybe you only really have a moderate case. But, the psilocybin lobby, has something to really gain from this. I don't like that idea. And of course people are going to have something to gain from it because these are highly addictive substances.
Of course.
So I don't know about that side of it.
Yeah.
It makes me uncomfortable to think about.
Totally. And I mean, especially all this fentanyl producers in China and Southeast Asia.
Right.
Who import their shit here is like, it's very much like, it's weird how like interconnected a lot of these things are. I mean, was it Deutsche Bank who got fucked recently?
Yeah, that was last week. We talked about that last week.
It was not that. That was their liquidity crisis.
Yeah.
Was it Barclays or UMG who got fucked for like doing shit for cartels? Like,
I don't know about that.
I think Deutsche Bank and UMG or UBS, excuse me, got in big trouble for that one because they were knowingly like holding money for drug cartels and doing nothing about it.
Right. Yeah, it's a shame that kind of thing happens, and I don't know what you do about it.
HSBC, sorry, my bad. HSBC.
It really seems increasingly that drugs, and I mean the entire I don't want to say sinful, but the not viceful, but I can't think of a proper word. The
degenerate.
Not the degenerate, but I mean, degenerate is a good word. I guess I'll use that. The degenerate, like reprobate piece of what makes us human is becoming increasingly commodified, and no matter what we do to make it legal or illegal, it is still seemingly going down that path. And it really is one of those broad brush issues that nobody seems to be addressing.
Right.
Because, I mean, if you're a free market person, you say, free market will get what it wants.
Yeah, right.
But that really, I think, doesn't account for how short-sighted we are as creatures. I mean, if you're on drugs, that makes you even more short-sighted. So it's just one of those things that I don't really know what we're going to do about going forward.
Right. Yeah, and it's like it's easy to say. Yeah, I don't like the word degenerate because it really is like a
meme word at this point.
You fucking profligate, like
those degenerate drug users. Terrible.
We should let him overdose in the streets.
Yeah, like no, it's not.
I can't believe that's
quite what
a
I'm saying.
policy position, like taking Narcan off ambulances to let people overdose on heroin and shit.
God, people like that are disgusting.
You
can't even understand maintaining that as a like tenable policy position.
It's kind of disturbing, to be fair.
Oh, it's completely disturbing. Complete unempathetic.
Troglodytes.
Yeah. It's just terrible. And that's another thing somebody's mentioned here: drug culture. Like, yeah, what do we do about that too? Like the glorification.
It's of like things like benzo abuse.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The whole thing is just crap.
I mean, at the very least, it's not like people doing crack anymore. At least they're like trying to do shit like, at least they're trying to do like benzos, I guess, rather than trying to smoke crack.
I mean, but benzos still aren't that good for you to be using. That shit will screw with your liver if you take too much of it.
It'll fuck with your brain too.
Yeah, well, clearly.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just pop a few benzos. You'll feel fine. No after effects. No side effects. No problems.
How is speaking of that, how's your Do you want to talk about that on stream?
I mean, yeah, I can. I guess there's not that many people.
Because we both, we both have like experience in the prescription drug.
Yeah. So I'll start off and I'll say, I had a very bad experience with alcohol a couple months back, and I actually probably shouldn't have said that because I shouldn't even be drinking. But everybody does it around the age.
We're 21.
Yeah.
If anyone asks, we're 21. Don't tell the cops.
Yeah.
Well, it's not like statute of limitations, bitch. They didn't see you do it. They can't do shit.
Right. Sure.
Fuck 12.
I mean, it doesn't look good for my reputation, but I mean, I don't consume any.
You still have a reputation as a cringe comment YouTuber. We have bigger what's it called? We have bigger image issues to tackle.
Swear to God. I hate everybody that still thinks I'm a cringe comp YouTuber.
Bro, that fucking comment.
God.
Can you pull that up on stream? You got haters, bro. That was so fucking funny, dude.
I talked to that guy
Oh.
privately.
Did you?
It's,
Okay.
Yeah, okay, but we're going off. But anyway, so I had a negative
Okay, so-
experience with alcohol, and it led me to like feel like literally depressed and anxious. Like I had never felt that way before. And eventually I talked to my doctor about it, and I got prescribed an SNRI, which is a norepinephrine reuptake inhibitor. And I feel better. I feel a lot better now. I've been on it for 2 weeks, and I feel fantastic now. I mean, not as great as I used to, but I'm getting there.
Yeah, about 6 weeks in, you'll feel better. I'm
Yeah.
on a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor,
Yeah,
which accomplishes a similar goal.
yeah.
Which is kind of interesting to me that both of these have like similar effects, but they accomplish it through different means, which is very interesting to me.
Well, SNRIs actually do prevent the reuptake of serotonin as well. So it's a
Yeah.
serotonin norepinephrine hyphenated inhibitor.
Yeah.
But you just call it SNRI just for short.
Yeah, mine's selective serotonin only.
Yeah.
Which my first 2 weeks on that shit was rough.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, I've really felt fine. I haven't felt any issues. I guess I felt some heart palpitations every now and then, but that's kind of subsided now.
yeah, that happened to me too, when I first started.
I also noticed I can't really have caffeine anymore. Like it really
Oh,
affects
yeah.
me more so than it used to.
Be careful with alcohol. Be very careful with alcohol.
I do not intend to drink more than a beer.
Honestly, dude, like a beer,
I don't
you'd
even
probably be on your ass.
seriously.
Because like the first 2 weeks, well, yeah, I really probably should have told you that. The first 2 weeks, your your nervous system becomes very sensitive to changes in stimulus. So like, I got anxious at everything any sensation that changed around me, I got very anxious at. So like, even if the air temperature changed, I'd get very anxious for some reason. And it just like made my nervous system hypersensitive to what was going on around me. And I drank I made myself some tea, and it was like I didn't realize it had caffeine in it. And I drank maybe a third of a cup before I was uncontrollably shaking. I almost fucking went to the ER because I thought I was dying.
No,
Because, I was shaking so much.
Yeah, I literally just had a similar experience later today because I had a cup of a tea and it wasn't a whole cup, but I mean I wasn't shaking that badly, but like I really
you
felt
felt
the
it.
effects. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not like I used to. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy, but
That'll go away. I mean, I'm still like pretty sensitive to like alcohol and stuff, and
Yeah,
caffeine
I
less
imagine.
so. But like, yeah, I mean, nicotine's the same way too. Like, I feel it a lot quicker
sure,
than I used to.
sure.
Um,
Yeah, it's been great overall. I have not like noticed any side effects or anything like that. The one thing I will say though is one of the big effects I felt after having that incident with alcohol was like things really did not seem inspiring anymore. Like I really used to like the passion that I've always had in making YouTube videos is the idea that I was going to be making something that is really going to impact people because I'm saying something new and original that is important to somebody. And I really lost that for the past 2 months. I have not felt that. It's coming back slowly, but surely it is coming back. But it really was gone completely. I saw no reason to read anymore, to continue to play the piano. I didn't completely stop either of those things, but I did start doing it a lot less because it just didn't bring me any joy anymore.
Yeah, that was the same thing I had.
And thankfully that is back now, and I
Yep.
practice every day, and I read the news every day. Clearly, while I'm doing this. Yeah, it's been fantastic overall.
Fuck yeah, I'm glad.
On that
yeah.
note, so Friends is leaving Netflix.
Oh yeah, I fucking saw that. Dude, weren't they burning like a couple $100 million to keep that shit on there?
I don't know, but when
I always heard a rumor that was it.
Yeah, I have no idea. I imagine it's quite a bit. Because they're actually burning a lot of money on keeping more than 2 seasons of a single show on. And this isn't just Friends. This is for every single show that they own and shows they're newly producing. They have found that audience retention after the second season is negligible. So there's no real reason to keep anything more than the second season. Or produce anything more than 2 seasons of a show.
Which, yeah, that makes sense to me. I mean, things like Black Mirror, I never really bothered with the seasons anyway. Like, I just, like...
Right.
I'll go through and watch an episode I haven't seen in a while, or whatever, if I feel like watching Black Mirror.
Right. I mean,
Or,
Black
like-
Mirror is one of those things where the later seasons objectively are worse, so,
Yeah. That's true. That's a good point. I haven't actually seen any of the... Bandersnatch was really good.
I I thought it was more style than substance, I have to say.
Okay, well, I did do it on an airplane, so that entertained me for like 3 hours. So like I was pretty happy about that.
Fair enough, fair enough.
So when I got done, I'm sure if I did it here, I'd be like bored out of my fucking mind. But like, because I did it on an airplane, I was like kind of a captive audience in that regard.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely more than fair.
So
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really like it because some of the ways they integrated the choice system in it were just, how can I put it? They just fell flat. Like, he somehow was aware that if he made the wrong decision, he could just come back at certain points. Like, maybe
which
that was
is like, it was meta. Like it was like a meta style choice. But,
Yeah.
like, I wasn't sure I liked
no.
the idea that he was aware that we were watching him.
Yeah, I didn't
Which
like
I
that
guess
either.
it goes with like the Black Mirror thing, but like it would have been much cooler if it was really like a choose your own adventure type thing.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been better if he wasn't aware. That's what would have
Yeah.
made it more Black Mirror-y. This comedic turn that they've taken in the newer seasons, I really don't like.
Yeah,
Not
I
at
don't
all.
like the dark comedy.
No, it should be dark. It should be like a Twilight Zone episode, like the initial episodes were.
Or the dark comedy shouldn't be like be comic relief or whatever. Like I think the
Yes.
like the 20 million merits or whatever, like the dark comedy of the fact that they, after his like teary-eyed speech with a piece of glass to his neck, they fucking stood up and clapped for him and gave him his own show.
Yes, or even in the
Like-
first episode where the prime minister, has to screw a pig on TV. Like, that's funny, but it's funny because it's so absurd and
It's
so terrible.
absurdly morbid, right?
Yes,
exactly.
not a dude freaking out because he knows he's gonna get a second life. Like that, it just
Yeah, exactly.
Come on,
It doesn't make sense. Yeah.
Yeah. I just can't do it. I just can't.
That's understandable.
Uh,
Understandable. Have a good day.
yeah, and that's really all I had to say on that. I have really no other opinions on Friends leaving Netflix. I don't really quite care at all.
I don't care too much. I don't watch a lot of Netflix anymore. I'm an Amazon Prime slut now. I fucking love Amazon Prime. That shit's cash. You have Prime, right?
Yeah,
Prime Video?
I have
Dope.
it, but I don't use it.
Prime Video is dope.
I mean, most of the stuff I want to watch on Prime, I have to buy or rent anyway, so like I just end up not using it at all.
Yeah. I don't like Stranger Things that much, to be honest.
The first season was the best. Second season was good. Third season, I feel, is absolutely the worst so far.
That seems to be my progression with every single Netflix original I've ever watched. First season's really good. Second season is like, okay, this is like, we're still there, but like, and then third season's like, okay, guys, like, you should have ended this like 10 episodes ago. That was House of Cards. First season of House of Cards is the most incredible 10-episode TV series fucking ever. Like I was engaged the entire time. I probably watched the first season of House of Cards like 6 times because it's so good.
Seriously?
Yeah, have you never watched it?
No, it's one of those shows I'd probably like, but I just never got into it. Never watched it.
Season 1 and 2 of House of Cards are really very much like, kind of like, holy shit, that just fucking happened, and like you're at the edge of your seat. Man in the High Castle, that's a great one you should watch on Amazon. Have you ever read the book?
No, I haven't, but it's another one
book
that I've
and
heard is really good.
The book and the show is really good. Also, kind of the same progression. Like the first season, Man in the High Castle is really good. Second season is like, yeah, and the third season is, yeah.
I started looking into it, and apparently they started going with like multiple universe garbage in the show, so like that really turned me off.
And that turned me off too. It kind of works, like with the way they did it, but they don't ever fucking explain. They don't ever fucking explain anything. So you're kind of like teleported between these universes, and you're like, huh? So
yeah, that's a turnoff for me. Like if I'm gonna be watching alternate history, I want to watch alternate history, and I want to watch
because it's alternate history.
Yeah.
I don't want like it's alternate history because of,
it's alternate history
alternate
plus
universe.
aliens or plus universe
Yeah.
travel. Like no,
I just want alternate history.
alternate history. Like when I watch Black Mirror, I want a Black Mirror, not a Black Mirror plus comedy. I want a Black Mirror. And it's the same with Stranger Things. When I'm watching Stranger Things, I want strange things. Not like this season. They pretty much, instead of having some kind of government conspiracy, they just went with this, and I talked about this before.
Yeah.
Absurd, Russian propaganda type crap.
Yeah.
That's not strange. That's just, it's like almost comedic at that point. I'm not watching this show to be, for laughs. I'm watching it because I want, my curiosity piqued in some kind of conspiracy fashion. And this,
You'd like Chernobyl. Have you seen it yet?
No, I haven't, but it's another show I've heard of.
You would definitely like Chernobyl. It's like the top-rated TV show of all time. It's honestly incredible. Like, It's a very incredible show. It's good. It's very good. Mr. Robot's pretty good too, but it follows the same progression that all those other shows have for me. Where like season 1, I'm like on the edge of my seat, like oh shit, and then like season 2 and 3, I was just kind of meh.
Yeah, I started watching Mr. Robot and I couldn't get into that one either. The pacing was just too slow for me.
The pacing's weird.
Yeah, I didn't
It took
enjoy
me a
it.
couple of tries to start it,
Yeah, I didn't enjoy it at all.
and then later it gets like really mind fucky.
Yeah,
You know, like it gets very mind fucky, and like it's mind fucky in a cool way.
I imagine.
But like it kind of follows that same path that you might not like it because it's kind of like I don't want to spoil it for anyone in chat, but like
Right.
you kind of like it was kind of disappointing to me. Like the twist,
Right.
like it was a twist that I was like, huh, I'm surprised by this, but I didn't like it. I wish it would have been.
I bet it's
Like-
similar to. Oh my god, what is happening on stream? A little bit of lag. My bad. My bad for everybody watching. But is it like a similar to a John Forbes Nash like scenario where everything's just in his head?
Yeah, it's literally that.
Figured. It's so
And
predictable.
it was like
That's
the one
so
guy. Yeah.
predictable.
The Mr. Robot guy is like the ghost of his dad in his head or something. It would have been so much fucking cooler if it was like
The ghost of his dad. What?
yeah, it was like it would have been so much cooler if it was like actually someone who like came to find him to like instill revenge or whatever, or like it actually turned out to be his dad who faked his own death or some shit like that. But, like fuck, it's like it just turns out he's like a schizo and his dad is like warping his memory to get him to blow some shit up. It's like it's one of those things like fuck, this could have been such a cool show and you had to like do some dumb shit with it.
Yeah, I mean that is literally ripped almost exactly from A Beautiful Mind. So, pretty
I
predictable.
mean literally the
Predictable.
company is called the company is called like Evil Corp.
Yeah,
Like, and
yeah.
it's one of those things that's like you sort of slowly realize that Elliot, in the main character, in his head warps whenever someone says whatever. He warps them to say Evil Corp or whatever. So like it's just it's very ham-fisted. Like, oh, this totally isn't Apple. This totally isn't JP Morgan. Oh, this totally isn't, Exxon. Like,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've had enough of talking about TV shows for a little bit.
Yeah.
Also, since the viewership is so low today, I kind of want to talk about that for a little bit. What do you think about that?
That was really weird the other night.
I
There was
think
a lot of weird.
you know what I really think it is. I think Friday is a prime stream night, and I think nobody's streaming on Sundays. I have to say, I think that's what it is.
Big Joe's at work right now.
Yeah. I think Sundays might be a better night.
Yeah, because then we're all off work. We don't have anything to do, and I think you're probably
Yeah.
right.
I think Friday is just too crowded of a space.
Yeah, you're probably right. Because I remember we had a lot of people, and we had a lot of people stay.
Yeah. And also there were donations as well. So part of me was wondering if they were fake viewers somehow. I don't know how that would have happened. But a lot of people did begin to interact.
But there
and
was a lot of donations and stuff, and when we said like if you're still here, interact, and like a fuck ton of people typed.
Yeah, so I think it may just be that a lot of other people are busy on a Friday night. That could also be it. That Fridays are just
fucking Wiley's at a party right now.
right. So a lot of people could be
Big
doing
Joe
that
has
too.
work.
Yeah. So this could just be it could be a bad time slot, and I think that's what it is.
It could be an inopportune time. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't even think of that, but given what happened on Sunday, I think Sunday is going to be the optimal time.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll have to do it next week, Sunday then.
Well, I guess we could go to the Twitter outage now, since that's still kind of relevant.
Yeah, it's been happening a lot.
Yeah.
You noticed that like Cloudflare went down for a while too.
Did it really?
Yeah, it was China DDoSing some Hong Kong thing, and they fucked up Cloudflare too, which brings down about 30% of the internet with it. Excuse me.
China was DDoSing Hong Kong?
China was DDoSing like Hong Kong news websites.
Oh. What? Because of the protests that are going on right now?
Yeah.
Because the
So
extradition
like a
laws?
coordinated cyber attack. Yeah.
God.
And so, as it would turn out, they accidentally fucked up a Cloudflare return node.
I hate this shit. We're like living in the prototypical, like, I don't want to say Blade Runner dystopia, but like we're getting so close. Like, I don't like this. It's really so on key. Like, I mean, this is something that you would have seen in a dystopian movie 20 years ago, like China hacking Hong Kong servers and bringing websites down. Like, it's just like, damn, we we're really in
Yeah,
this timeline.
but a lot of the internet, like
Ah,
Discord, if you notice in the last couple of days, has been very
yeah,
unstable.
yeah, it has.
And so someone, I was reading this thread, um, on Reddit, and which I'll just read like the conclusions, then I'll explain why these are all very shitty, or most of them are shitty. So one, software complexity is escalating over time and logically will continue until something makes it stop. It has now reached the point where even large companies cannot maintain high reliability. Sort of like not Godwin's law. The one guy who worked at Dell, where they said they could like every 6 months they could like half their size of microchips or whatever, kind of like that, but for software.
Yeah,
Internet volume is continuously increasing over time, and periodically will hit a point where there's just too many pieces required to make it work until some infrastructure change solves that. We've hit such a point when dial-up is no longer enough, and we solve that with fiber. Now we have a choke point somewhere else in the system, and will require a different infrastructure to change. Russia, China, or Iran, or somebody is fucking with us to see what they need to break, if they need to apply leverage to get sanctions lifted. Just a series of unconnected big errors, which number one has the right premise, where like software complexity is escalating over time very quickly.
yeah,
However, it's going to keep escalating until either it gets halved again because of they refine problems, framework come out, things like that.
Here, wait, can I interrupt you quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Pill J has donated 20 Swedish or no Norwegian crayons, which comes to krone, which comes to 2.3 US dollars. So thank you very much, Pill J. Very much appreciated.
Thank you, buddy. We love you.
Okay, you can continue now. I just wanted to mention his name to be respectful.
Yeah, go ahead. So software complexity is increasing over time, but companies at the scale of like these big companies have continually accumulated these tech problems until they become the biggest threats to reliability, in which case they, like all this legacy code is what's really fucking with the shit.
Right.
Like all the legacy shit. It's not the new shit that's breaking stuff. It's the legacy shit that's breaking stuff. Number two is internet volume is increasing over time. We need to change something in the system, which is kind of true because in the case of Cloudflare, like you kind of forget how much the internet relies on baseline architecture like Cloudflare, Amazon Route 51, like routing services, content delivery networks, until one of them goes down. Or like when Amazon S3 went down and half the fucking internet went with it. You kind of forget how much infrastructure relies on like certain like single points of failure until that single point of failure fails.
Right.
And that's just, there's no way to fix that. There just isn't. Like, we're always going to be a slave to the single point of failure. That's it. Because there's different tierings of architecture, tier 1, 2, and 3. Tier 1 being, I can't remember if it's inverse or the other way, where it's like tier 1 is like data centers, tier 2 is the whatever, and tier 3 is like the nodes and the actual light in the fucking fiber optic cables or shit like that. But it's like, there's just different tierings of architecture, and that's not going to change. There really is no fundamental way to move data better than we have right now. At least wirelessly, or wired. I mean, it's still cheaper and more efficient to ship a truck full of hard drives than it is to beam all that data across cables. But Russia or China's fucking with something. I mean, we knew it was China that fucked with it before, but no one really has. I mean, in the case of what Stuxnet is?
Nah, I have no idea mostly of what you're talking about.
Okay, so Stuxnet is something that Israel and the United States allegedly sort of co-opted to destroy the Iranian nuclear program. It was a rogue computer. We intended it to do it. We intended it to be rogue and uncontrollable. Built it, sent someone to Iran, dropped a flash drive in a parking lot in an Iranian nuclear facility, hoping someone would plug it into one of the computers. They did. We fucking destroyed their centrifuges. Successfully destroyed the Iranian nuclear program before it began. Something like this has already happened here in the United States, where quite a number of times Chinese hackers have been able to break into and shut down dams and electrical nodes and shit like that, like power stations and stuff. So I mean, it's really scary how interconnected a lot of this stuff is and how vulnerable it is, especially from a legacy code standpoint. Like I said, it's the old shit that should scare you, not the new shit.
Yeah,
it's the shit that's been lying dormant in like a mainframe computer for 20 years running the same line of machine code that should scare you, not like the brand new shiny mechanic that someone just pushed today.
Well, sure. I mean, that's not really something that I care too much about at all. I mean, what I care more about is the human aspect of that and the governmental aspect of that. And what I mean by that is this: people in the comments in the chat here have mentioned what everything China is doing right now. I think if it isn't clear to most people already, it should be that freedom costs time It costs efficiency and it costs money. And so long as we continue to allow unfree states to exist, freedom will be snuffed out in the West. And I think that's incontrovertible, because given what somebody like China is doing with like state-run oil, state-run coal, which they have,
Yeah.
it's just a matter of time until their system of doing things is not only preferable to Western democracies, but it becomes the only option for those countries to continue to compete.
Right.
So I don't really know what we're going to do about that. I don't know if that's something that's going to affect us in our lifetimes. But it's not something people are talking about when it comes to the China conversation. It really is coming down to more, well, why aren't we doing this? America needs to stay number one. It's like,
No,
wait a minute. Hold on. Why aren't we talking about how they're doing this and the real differences that are allowing them to do it?
Yeah, exactly. We can't sacrifice civil liberties for the sake of staying number one on fucking Wikipedia.
Right.
But I'll just finish a closing thought in the Google Downing where I said, like, the most likely reason is number 4, which is just sort of a series of unrelated events, because everyone fucking uses the same shit. I know for a fact Discord uses it. It's called Kubernetes. It's sort of like a sort of think of it like a mesh, where like if a lot of people are pushing on the mesh, it kind of spreads itself out through different computing engines to like lighten the load. And it's new. It literally came out in like 2017 or 2016 is kind of when it hit the mainstream. I think version 1.0 was released in like 2014. But Google like really fucking started shoving it into my email inbox to get me to convert to it from their compute engine in like 2017. So, but everyone uses the same fucking what they're called YAML files, YAML.
Right.
And it's just like configuration files, and they're so fucking finicky. Where it's like, oh fuck, I just deployed using 2 spaces instead of 4. We're fucked. The website's going down in about 10 minutes when this shit hits. Like that's what it's like. Mm-hmm. So it's unsurprising that like the problem is probably resolved before it even hits, the downtime even hits. So it's just one of those things that's like everyone is using the same architecture, and it's probably just some fucking code monkey who just fucked up a configuration file and pushed to the wrong thing.
Right.
Or like forgot a space or a period somewhere. And that's just what development is. Like you can't test for these things you can't test essentially YAML files. Sure. And see if they're going to work until you deploy them and see that they don't work. You can't test them. There's no unit tests to run that could tell you if they're working or not. Like the only unit tests you can run on things like that is like, is your formatting right? So you could catch the spaces. But if you forget something, there's nothing you can do. You're just kind of fucked.
Right.
Yeah. So this guy likes saying fuck. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. That's my most common word on Reddit. I'm not even shitting you.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what we do about it, about the whole situation. It's another one of those things that geopolitics is essentially screwed in some ways. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't know.
I don't know. It's scary. The world is scary.
Yeah, I think elitism is scary, and what scares me even more is that is where the world is heading, and that's what people are supporting. And it really, quite frankly, disgusts me, because you see it on both the left and right here in America, that people really want and are pushing for unaccountable positions and institutions to control most of what we do, and more so, they're pushing for technocrats to be in
I was about
positions.
to bring that up. I was going to say technocrats, an unchecked technocrat meritocracy sounds really fucking cool until you realize that these people are just as flawed as you and I. They just happen to be very smart.
Yeah. It sounds really cool until we get neo-slavery, which at a certain point, like, is kind of a thing in China. It's kind of happening right now. Nobody's talking about it.
You're talking about, bro, the Uyghurs are counter-revolutionary. They don't exist.
Yeah. And nobody's also talking about a lot of the other religious minorities, not necessarily the Uyghurs, but there are other religious groups in China that are being suppressed and whose rights are being stripped away from them. But that's not being discussed. That's not part of the narrative. The narrative is China better, U.S. bad, U.S. need get better. That's the narrative.
Oh my god, dude. Fucking Maoists annoy the shit out of me. Maoists, get out of my chat.
Well, yeah.
Deng was my hero, by the way.
Deng. God.
I love you, Deng. Base Deng. I say that all the time in like left tube servers. People get so mad when I go like, "Dang is my hero."
Yeah, I
I started
just
a big fucking argument in 3 arrow server because someone's like, "China is the last bastion of anti-imperialism." I'm like, hold up, son. What was that?
yeah,
Last bastion of anti-imperialism is China. Say that again slowly for me.
I'm
The fact that
just
recently China, they issued a loan to Pakistan that they knew Pakistan couldn't pay back, mind you. They knew going into this that Pakistan would default on this loan, but they still gave it out anyway because in the loan terms was that they would get a 99-year lease on like all of Pakistan's ports and railroads, no strings attached. So they kind of doing it to like take over things like that to make a lot of money off of poor countries who need this money but know they can't pay it back, get completely fucking boned when they can't pay it back, and then China owns their infrastructure and can essentially
right.
that's like the Silk Road 2.0.
Yeah,
That's what they're talking about.
yeah. I don't know. I don't like discussing geopolitics too in depth, because one, it gets too theoretical.
Oh god, yeah.
And it gets to a point.
Yeah, like the
where,
dangism thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, okay, we're talking about it. Are we ever going to actually do anything about it? No.
No.
Then who gives a shit?
No.
Yeah. It's yeah, and for that reason, it starts to disinterest me after a while because
Yeah.
Like the big issues that are going to affect the U.S. people are still going to be important because those are going to affect me and my family. But like, I mean, the human rights violations are important, but when we're getting to this like minutia of who owns what, who's doing what, who needs to compete with what, how about we fix our domestic problems, and then how about then we start trying to deal on these geopolitical issues?
Yeah, I mean it's a balancing act because you can't focus on one and neglect the other.
Right, but I mean, I don't think we should be pursuing geopolitics at all costs, which it seems like at least Vox.
The neoconservative agenda is quite internationalist and interventionist. I can give you that.
I'd say even Democrats are still pretty.
Yeah, you're right. It
external.
depends on the.
Unless you're talking about an AOC and her coalition.
Well, that's what I mean. Is it's like some of the Democrats are very much like, meh, foreign policy, meh, and some of them,
right?
Like a lot. I see it. You see it more like the old birds.
Yeah.
Like Chuck Schumer and all them. That's sort of more like who came into power. John Kerry's another example. Like sort of like people who came into power after the Vietnam War were like,
Yeah,
foreign policy. Yeah.
No thanks.
Foreign policy Democrats.
Yeah, no thank you. How about you deal with what your constituency wants you to do? How about that? How about you represent the people you're elected to represent? How about that? So it's revolutionary, I know.
Crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, crazy how you're supposed to represent people that elect you to represent them. It's so crazy to me. But I mean that's what I'm getting to with like the technocratic turn that the parties seem to have taken. Like the idea that it's not about representation. You're electing somebody who knows best, like some kind of paternalistic pipe dream. Like you're electing some daddy or something to take care of you. Like,
yeah,
shut
the
up.
nanny state.
Shut.
Yeah.
I can't stand when people talk down to the electorate like that. It actually makes my blood boil, because it is elitism, pure and simple, and there's nothing else to it. It is disdain for the average person in favor of some crap elite class. And it's so disgusting.
Yeah, but it's kind of dangerous to talk like that too, because that can lead to like sort of a toxic level of populism, or like elite bad.
I mean, I think we should be more populist than elitist.
Oh yeah, but I mean again, it's the problem with like the duality of like it's not a 2-axis system between elitism and populism. Like it's not like a 2-chain thing.
Right.
I don't know. I think if we want to see democracy flourish in the new scary world of authoritarian governments cropping up, then I think bolstering fledgling nations like that is an important thing to do.
I think we clearly need to foster, I don't want to say classicism, but I feel like the idea of a liberal education is something that countries should start to take more seriously. And I have it listed here that Amazon is talking about upskilling, but at a certain point, like you mentioned before, even though politics may get more complex, technology may get more complex, human issues and human dynamics have stayed the same for thousands of years now. And
Right.
the idea that classic texts are somehow outdated because they don't touch on all modern issues is completely crap.
Okay, but you read Kropotkin and you said it yourself. Kropotkin is like, yo, this shit don't work now.
But that's on an economic scale. If we're talking, say, how we should be treating political institutions,
Oh yeah.
I think Aristotle is still extremely relevant, and he's still read by many, poli-sci students. But as far as
Yeah.
I'm concerned, that text is so basic it should be read by just about everybody in the nation.
Which one, the Republic?
No, that's Plato. The Politics is by
Oh, fuck.
Aristotle.
That's the other one.
I
I gotta read all these base texts, dude.
Yeah, I mean, I have read a few of them, and like they're very important. These are things everybody should know about, and they should inform the way people are making basic decisions. I don't understand how we ever hope to get anywhere and further human institutions when we're not paying attention to what theorists have actually said about those institutions,
Right.
and why we don't allow the populace, or I think force the populace, to engage with those ideas either. And that's what really annoys me.
Yeah, we just education, bro. That's it. That's that shit.
Yeah.
We need that shit in there. Yeah, Breadman bad actually. Kropotkin isn't that good of a writer, to be fair.
No.
Like, to be completely honest.
Very simplistic. Extremely
Machnovists
simplistic.
are also shit. Machnovists are anti-Semites. I'm just saying.
I don't pay attention to Machno too much.
Machno it's an interesting. The Greens are an interesting part of the Russian Revolution that are often glazed over.
I mean,
It's interesting.
yeah, he did a good job in Ukraine, but I don't know what.
Also killed a lot of Jews. When the Bolsheviks came, like, hey, you want to kill a bunch of Jews? He's like, fuck yeah, I do. And then they killed a bunch of Jews. So I mean, you win some, you lose some.
Yeah.
Which is interesting that no one seems to fucking know that. I mean, I kind of study the Holocaust a little bit, but like nobody fucking knows about these programs that happened. Like, if you want to unify a group of like left wing and right wing, like hard right, hard left thinkers, like just be like Jews and they'll fucking unite and kill them. Like, it's really quite disgusting. Like how people idolize people like Machno when he's a fucking shithead.
Well, it really is one of those things that unfortunately is endowed in, Western thought now because we live in the shadow of Christ, unfortunately. And whether you want to admit to it or not, I think on a preconscious level, anybody who's been indoctrinated in messianic thinking in any way, it goes even back to what Marx would say about how communism would eventually come. Anybody who's thinking in that way is going to have to establish some kind of boogeyman. And unfortunately, because religion,
The Jews are an easy target.
Yeah.
Well, particularly because of like, it's kind of funny to me. It's very much a circle, right? Because it's like they were banned from normal professions like farming, shoemaking, metalworking. So they had no choice but to go into things like banking. And then suddenly, and when the 20th century rolled around, the globalized market sort of became dominant. They became the boogeyman again because they had been forced into these roles as, artists and writers and bankers because they couldn't work anywhere else. And then suddenly now they're the enemy again.
Yeah, it's just terrible. It's just completely terrible. Yeah, another one of those things. I don't know what we do about it, but there it is.
It do be that way sometime.
It do.
Dude, hell yeah, bankers for the win. Fuck yeah, Shay. Bankers.
Yeah.
We're both gonna be fucking bankers, dude. It's so ironic.
Yeah. Yeah. If I do end up going into banking, who knows at this point?
Yeah, I'll probably go into federal law enforcement, to be honest.
I don't
I
know.
went to an FBI information session. That's just kind of cool.
I might study law and become, I don't know, a corporate lawyer or something. Still a shill, but
oh my god, tax law would be you'd make so much money.
I honestly wish I could do YouTube more, but not gonna lie, I don't know where to go. Like,
but like taxes or like
no, like just doing YouTube to make more money and see if it could be something. I don't want to say do full time, but I mean, it's on the table. It's like the far end dessert that I may not get to eat, but yeah, it's there.
You can see it, yeah.
Yeah. But like, I don't know.
I would always recommend finishing your degree, ladies and gentlemen, if you were planning on dropping out of college.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, unless you really, really, really have the balls, unless you're like somebody like Emma Chamberlain, who can...
Or Jake Paul.
Yeah, or Jake Paul. Fuck Jake Paul.
Fuck Jake Paul. But Jake Paul hustles.
Yeah. See, my issue right now is really like, even though I still likely will become a banker, doing this, it's so hard for me to not only pick topics, but also make the actual videos themselves. Because it gets to me thinking that, like, I'm going to be putting exorbitant amounts of time into one video that not only people may not see, but that, you know, people come to anticipate. And so it's like, if I don't spend 50, 60 hours in a video, it's going to be letting people down. And it's like, well, shit, you know, this sucks. I hate this completely. This is miserable, because it's not about me enjoying the editing. It's about, like, I need to make sure my fans are enjoying this video, because if I don't, you know, I lose what I have going here. And I don't know what to do about it. Like, I want to transition into something that's less editing heavy, but I don't know what that will entail.
I mean, I know we've talked about this like extensively in like our DMs and shit, like how to, because I know you want to go away from the Mr. Amazing of yore, and you want to sort of break into the more.
I want to be a person on this website. I want to be.
Yes, that's
I want to be
yeah.
a personality. I want to be known for being me, not for, like, nobody
Cringe
knows
counts.
who. Not only that, but for being the music analysis guy, which is now what I'm also getting to be known as. Like,
That's how I know Gilbert and what's his name?
Phil Volksgeist.
Phil.
Yeah,
Fuck,
I mean,
I never remember Phil's name. I feel so bad when I talk to him.
no, it's not his last name. It's you don't remember his first name?
I don't remember his first name when I talk. I like call Gilbert, then I call Phil Volk. Like I call everyone else by their first name in Jeremiah's server. Then I call him Volk because I can never remember his fucking name.
God. Yeah, I mean, but that's what he wants to be known as, and he wants to ultimately form a business. Like, he has an LLC. So
He has office space now, doesn't he?
yeah, he does. Well, it's actually in his house.
But
like,
I mean, fuck it. Like that's a step, right?
he bought an apartment, and like he has a little office now. So yeah, it is a step.
Yeah, it's a step.
But like, I don't know. I just, because like somebody Aromaticus here mentioned maybe more camera shots, but then it's like I gotta show my face eventually, right? I gotta start
You
doing.
showed it on your second channel.
Yeah, but then it's gonna be like I need to invest in lenses, and I need to invest in a better camera, and those are gonna be big monetary investments. And then the question is, okay, now then where do I go? Like, I can't just think I'm gonna buy this stuff and everything's gonna magically fall into place. Like, I gotta have a game plan if I'm gonna be spending upwards of $2,000-$3,000 just on shit that's literally just going to be used for YouTube. I have no other reason to buy like a Sony A7 and pertinent lenses other than YouTube. And yeah, lighting too. Like, and lighting is going to be the really big issue when I get to college. When I get back to college, rather. Like, lighting isn't that expensive, actually. You can buy, box lights for about $100 on Amazon. It's not that bad. But the lenses and the cameras, that's where the money really, really gets sunk. And I don't know. I don't know.
I know. I remember you talking about lenses, and you're like, "Fuck, these are like $800 lenses that people are using as daily drivers."
Yes.
Which is like one of those things that's like, I mean, fuck, dude, you can get a red camera at $40,000 and fucking start editing that way. Like it's
red. Oh my god.
I don't think it should matter the way you do it. Like, I think people would watch your content regardless of the camera quality. Like, I don't think you need like a macro lens to like do that type of shit.
No, but I mean, I want to have bokeh and I want it to look good. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I'm gonna be making content that is trying to touch on really big issues, which is what I want to do, and really interesting issues, the ethos that you have when you have good grading, good lighting, good camera work is infinitely higher than just shooting on your iPhone or shooting on a Panasonic, what would you call it, like, I can't think of the name. Oh my god. Yeah, I can't think of the name. God damn it. A Panasonic video camera. Like, it's not the camcorder. A Panasonic camcorder.
Oh yeah, the classic, like the fucking big tape one. Is that what you're talking about?
No, like, no, not that though. Like, I have a camcorder that it shoots 1080p, 60 frames per second, but like you don't get the bokeh, you don't get the focus, you don't get the clarity. I can't put that out there. I can't do that. it's just not good enough. And I mean, eventually, I imagine I'm gonna put money into getting a camera. But yeah, I don't know. Because I mean, ultimately, if I want to do, you know, shots of scenery and shit, then I gotta buy a gimbal. That's another $500.
I mean, you can get like, I mean, like a mobile gimbal, like for mobile shooting, or like for like pan shots and like more.
I mean, a gimbal for a DSLR.
I mean, you can get like a good gimbal, like one of the DJI ones. DJI ones are like $229, I think.
I'm pretty
Because
sure that's for
someone
iPhone.
in a no someone in the server I was in was shooting with a Sony A7,
I'm
A7 III.
I'm looking here, and the cheapest one I see is $400, and that's by a Chinese company. DJI Ronin S Essentials 560. Shit's expensive. It's it's just not cheap to get that kind of quality. I mean, and the other thing is like, you know, what kind of camera do I get? Do I want something that's really gonna have nice, slow shots that I can ultimately slow down further? You know, I don't know. There's somebody here saying you don't know if the algorithm will favor you. I mean, I know how to get the algorithm to favor me. I can do it. I know it works and I know it doesn't. It really is just a matter of doing it more so than not, and doing it consistently. Like there are certain keywords, there are certain key ideas that the algorithm looks for. Extremity is one of them. I did such and such things so many times. Absolute statements are one of them. This is this, or explanatory statements are one of them. Here's why. It's a really big one. Or like the no, not all. That's a big one as well. And then putting the thumbnails, face, contrast colors. And then to gain retention, which is the very big factor, which ensures that the video stays in the recommended. You just need people to like what they're looking at. They need to stay on the video, and to do that, you need the quality visuals.
Yeah.
You need it. You absolutely need it.
Right.
I mean, there. Yeah, sorry.
You can. I'm trying to like put this in a way that's like, I really. It's sort of stylistic. Like, have you seen Nerd City's videos before?
Yeah, I don't like his videos.
You don't? I really love the way he edits. Like, I love the way he has sets and stuff. I really do enjoy that. Like the costumes and stuff, like the characters.
No, it's
Same
too
thing with
cheesy.
like Contra.
Too cheesy.
I kind of like the cheesy.
No, I don't. I like the clean aesthetic that's capturing, trying to capture day-to-day life, not pageantry that's like trying to do up day-to-day life. I want somebody that's actually here. Like when you're watching a ContraPoints video, when you're watching Nerd City, you're not watching them really. You're watching a role they're playing, and that's not what I want to present on my channel. And when you do costumes and you do fancy, you know, lighting and shit, that's what you're getting. You're getting an actor, and that's not what I'm looking to present.
Right. I'm trying to think with your style. Like, we'll just talk about, because I mean, we can just talk about this for a little bit, because I'm kind of interested in this topic as someone who's like a fledgling content creator.
Right.
How would you put yourself, like, because your style of video is very like video essay, like especially like your most popular ones, like the popular music one and the
Yeah.
you know, the X one. How would you put yourself in there? Like, I know like the way Knowing Better does stuff, where he kind of sits and he puts graphics in the corner.
Yeah.
Would you start doing stuff like that, or would you do like cutting things instead of like putting pictures on screen or whatever? When you need to fill space, you need to fill graphic. Would you put yourself there and just start talking? Like, I'm curious as to how you would like go about that.
So what I want to eventually do is talk about more abstract topics in general. So it would be me talking about the topic and then transitioning to some other graphics on screen, relying less on these huge compositions where there's text on screen and a bunch of garbage all the time, where there's all these animations and whatnot. Because, I mean, what I ultimately find is that when you're making videos that are based on some topic which has a lot of media related to it, it makes sense to do a lot of graphics. But that's not what I really want to talk about. That's not what I want to present, because I don't really care about that much anymore. I I want to talk about things that are interesting to somebody who's trying to live a good life, somebody who wants to do better in life, somebody who just wants to live life to their fullest. That's really, really abstract, but I mean that entails
I gotta get what you mean. Yeah.
that entails like self-help, that entails philosophy, that entails even religious subjects. But I mean, if Ezra Klein can do it on Vox, and he does it,
That's true. That is true.
that's what I imagined in my head.
Okay. So like the intro of the video, like to set a background. Like I love the like the Vox, the one where they talk about music.
Yeah,
Like
stuff
those,
like that.
the one they did recently on Stevie Wonder was fucking incredible.
Right.
That
So
was a fantastic piece of content.
where there still are graphics, but for the really hard-hitting points, I'm on screen speaking to the audience as this authoritative person who knows what he's talking
Right.
about.
Okay.
Where the graphics are not center stage, where I, as the presenter,
You
am
are
center
as a
stage.
personality are centers. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
That's what I'm
okay.
looking for.
All right. That's what I figured. I was thinking Vox. I hate getting compared to Vox because people did that today on the Neolib subreddit because I'm their unofficial channel now apparently. And I told you that the graphic I did on Twitter.
Yeah.
They actually want to keep me on board as kind of like a in-house
Yeah, you told me
motion
about that.
graphic artist, which is pretty cool. But like people like we need like a neoliberal ContraPoints. We need like a one of those types of, like in the Vox, like more Vox, even though Vox is literally neoliberalism in a channel. I don't know. Like I love the style of content that I make. I love doing it.
I'm tired of what I make. I'm tired,
Yeah, and
especially
that's my
with the
fear.
music stuff.
I don't want to get burnt out.
I mean, I'm not necessarily burnt out, but I hate being in this marketplace of ideas that's so full. I am sick and tired of having to compete with, and I hate to name names because I'm friends with a few of these other people, but with like a Middle 8 or a Polyphonic or a Lee likes music, or even Vox too because they make music-based videos. It's like this music formula of just latching on to a popular artist and analyzing why they're good. It is overdone. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of people telling me in the comments, analyze this artist, analyze this artist. I don't care about your artists. It makes me so mad. I don't care about Suicide Boys. I don't care about Brockhampton. I am tired of it. Ooh, it gets under my skin and it makes my blood boil because it really feels like I'm doing the same thing over and over, and I hate it. I really, really just hate it. Somebody, Aromatic says, why don't you stop trying to do music? But then it's like, it becomes the same process with movies. And then I start getting into this field where I'm, in line with other movie and TV show essayists like, what's his name? Karsten Rehnquist or the Royal Ocean Film Society or Rolling Ideas. It's like, they're all doing essentially the same thing. And I don't want to just be one of those people that does one of those things. I want to do something different. Because at the end of the day, if you're doing the same thing everybody else is doing, I don't know.
What the fuck is the point?
Yeah, what's the point? You're not bringing anything new to the table. You're wasting your time, I think.
Yeah.
It's
I kind of agree
it's
with
an
that.
exercise in vanity, I think.
And it's that's my biggest problem with creating content. Is people like, why don't you upload more? And it's like, fuck, because I want to say something new. Like that's it. I want to say something new.
Yes.
I don't want to because I scrapped a video recently because Vox did a video on something I was going to do a video on. And it was like, it's just one of those things like, I want to make something that people want to see and people haven't seen before. I want to bring a new opinion to the table.
Yes.
And I want to do it in a way that makes sense to people, which is why I did my immigration video. I hadn't really seen one
Yes.
that sort of like goes over it like that. That's why I wanted to do one on, that's why I'm doing one right now on earned income tax credits and the minimum wage, is because I don't think anyone has the opinion that I do and can present it in the way that I feel like I can.
Right. And that's what I endeavor to do on my channel too. Like, I'm making a video right now on Studio Ghibli's music and how it relates to the philosophical idea of the sublime. And that ties into the themes that go into Ghibli's films, the cultural formations that went into play in writing the scripts. And that is it's a time-consuming thing to research all that, to write a script based on that, and to tie all of that together, because it's something new. It's not just me looking up a few articles and saying, well, this is this thing, and this is cool.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to do that.
No, yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, exactly what you said, Aromatic. I just want to make videos on more niche topics that people may have heard of. Like, I'm sure people have heard of the minimum wage, but they've probably only heard the most, like, oh, if we raise the minimum wage, then, that's bad for the economy. If we lower the minimum wage, that might be better, but it also hurts people. I just want to talk about it in a more nuanced way that just sort of, I don't find content like that a lot.
And I don't want to do niche topics. I want to do not self-help. I don't like the term self-help. I don't like the term self-improvement either. Something that encompasses self-improvement.
You want to help themselves.
Yes.
You want to give people the tools to help themselves.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
the tools for people to help themselves. The tools
Bro,
for people to think better.
Yeah, I hate so much, and this happens a lot in like communities, and I'm sure you've seen it too. It happens on Twitter a lot too, where like people post these cries for help, and people piss and moan about their problems, but they don't actually want to solve them. They'd rather stay there and be sad, and be upset and be mad, and just let themselves fester in that way. Like, why would you not want to make your life better? Why would you want to just fucking sit there?
Right.
And
I mean,
just
I don't
fucking
mean
take
it exactly in that way, but what I want to, like, I have one idea for a video that I'd like to put out just called simply, like, how to think. And that might be a very pretentious title, but I think that would be eye-catching. I think it would be interesting because, what do you mean by thinking? How do you define thinking? And I think, that's something very interesting to get into overall because it gets into things like logic. It gets into things like how you understand logical systems, how you apply logical systems in a day-to-day way. And it is immediately apparent that this is something, to the average viewer where they can say to themselves, these are things that can make my life better, and these are things that I can use to make my life better. And that's what I want to provide in every video. Just saying this artist is good because that's not making anybody's life better.
Tyler the Creator, good.
Yeah,
Billie Eilish
do a
bad.
video on Igor. I don't care about Igor. It's a waste of my time. Like, I get that you like it. It's a good album. But I don't care.
Down with the American Empire impeach 45. I know this is a troll comment, but I mean, Vox is a pretty credible source. So is the Wall Street Journal. Depends on what the Wall Street Journal's talking about.
If you make a video about that, people are going to say, hey, this isn't music. And you know what?
And that's a fucking problem. Yeah, that's a big problem you might run into. Because like when I make history content, it gets so few views. Because I love doing history content. I love that shit so much.
Well, the transition's going to be slow. The transition's going to be very slow.
Yeah, but when I make political content, it gets retweeted by big accounts and shit. The one Bloomberg writer likes my stuff, which is cool.
Like, I have a video planned about, like I spoke of last year, the history of leftism in music. So that's going to be, that's going to be a very good transitional video because it's still going to appeal to these music people that want to see music. But it's also going to bring in this broader dialogue that is going to actually be interesting. It isn't just going to be this repetitive nonsense that people seem to want to see.
Yeah. People like consistency, dude. People are like, this is old. This is old. Why don't you make new content? And they make new content, and they're like, Greg, what? Old content.
Yeah, I think as long as you're doing something that at least in some way reminds them of the old content, you're still going to be doing something that's worthwhile to them, and so they'll stick around.
Yeah, fuck the audience. Fuck you guys. It don't matter.
Like, I made that video, The World Is Not As You See It, a year ago, and it got 80K views when it was uploaded. It's still getting recommended to people now, and it's getting newly recommended. And seeing other people like, what's his name? Pursuit of Wonder. He's been in the recommended relatively recently. And
I'm appearing in recommended lists.
Yeah, like, I don't
fucking dope.
think it's a matter of, what the audience wants, quote unquote. It's a matter of what you can do to keep them there. And in some ways, the audience doesn't know what they want, and that's the job of an effective marketer, which is essentially what you have to do on YouTube, to draw that out of them. And I think if you do something that's relatively relevant to them in some way and you present it in the right way, you're going to be able to get that. And that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
But to get there, I need to invest in cameras, camera lenses.
Write that shit off, bro. Itemize.
Yeah. And I have the money for it.
Right. Why don't you contact? This might be a. Why don't you contact like a web store for cameras? Like, like Sweetwater has like has like their
Mm.
like store. Why don't you contact someone like that, but for like camera gear, and be like, hey, I'm this YouTube channel, and I don't know how many signups you get with like the curiosity stream and shit, but I don't know, maybe like show that you get like clicks, like people click your shit in the because they love to see that shit. Like
Right.
they don't give a fuck that you put it in their video. They want people to buy their product,
Right.
which is why they give you those codes.
That's true.
So if you can show that like, hey, people listen to me when I recommend these things to them, so and I have an audience of creative people who want to make things like I do, who want to music and film and stuff. Why don't you send me some fucking Sony lenses, boys? Why don't you give me some fucking lenses, dude?
Right.
Might
Yeah.
work, might not. You might at least get a contact that can get you a discount, at the very least. Ask for $100 off a lens. That's the fucking lot of money for an $800 27mm lens.
Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, because freelance graphic design is ass. I fucking
No, it's
hate it.
completely ass. I don't know.
It's
Like,
terrible. It's garbage. I hate
yeah,
it.
you
I hate
don't
every second.
make much money doing that at all. And the
And
other thing
all the
is,
time.
I don't really have skills. I just have time to tweak
Yeah.
things.
Same.
I can't make a stellar video in a short period of time. I need time.
It's a lot of tweaking.
Yeah, and it's what really sucks. Because one, I'm not building an audience that way. I'm not like it is literally a lose-lose situation on almost all fronts. It is not conducive to an online brand. It really just does not grow the channel because I can't get videos out enough, and it essentially leaves me with nothing at the end of the day. Views and that's it. It does not go beyond that, which is crap. There's got to be a better way, and that's what I think. Like, this is just not working well enough.
It's little garbage disposal. What's up, bro? From last time, remember him? Ayo, free Palestine.
If we Palestine,
Hey, free Palestine.
yeah,
Say some funny stuff in stream, and you too can get an exclusive tag in Discord Amazing.
yeah,
His is currently really fucking woke. That's really how you get into Discord Amazing now. It's just like it's a secret club.
yeah. To be honest,
You gotta stay here long enough and listen to us ramble about stupid shit for hours on end.
facts.
And then you might get a chance.
I think we should, on that note, close the stream in like 17 minutes when we hit the 2-hour mark, because
Fuck yeah.
this, I gotta say, this is better with more than 2 people.
Oh god, yeah.
Like, this
Holy
hasn't
shit, we
been
need
the
Big Joe.
worst, but yeah, we need Big Joe and we need Wiley. But at least Big Joe.
Big Joe is good because he's a conservative voice.
Yeah. He also has the iFunny background.
He's like a fucking Big Joe is a goddamn memer, dude.
God.
He's like a dude when he was like roasting you on the origin of memes. That shit was funny. That was so fucking funny. Big Joe is a conservative and a Catholic. Like he is the guy we need on this stream.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I mean, I don't want to say this is kind of devolved, but it's like, what can we really say anymore at this point?
We're just talking to each other. This is a normal call we'd have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a shame. But like, people
And
are
Sunday.
mentioning.
We gotta do it Sunday.
Yeah, Sunday is definitely gonna be better.
Because we never even usually even the first stream when we did it on Wednesday, we still peaked at 400 viewers, and then it sort of slowly dwindled throughout the night. But we never even broke 70 today.
Yeah.
So I think it's really just a fucking bad time, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
The
We'll see.
algorithm
We'll see what happens next Sunday.
never stops.
Yeah. I just.
Thank you, Susan.
Yeah. If you want us to talk about anything, donate money. I'm not even gonna sugarcoat it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I mean, yeah, I guess you could do that, upload your videos on Twitter or whatever,
I-
parts of it, the good parts. I
Yeah.
don't know. I mean, that's just freebooting your own content.
but it just doesn't work when you don't have a face attached to it. There, you lose an element of pathos in the video when your face is not there, and it just doesn't work. it just does not work. Like, it just sucks. There's no way around it. It's not sustainable. And that's what I think my audience ultimately needs to understand. Like, I can't keep doing this for the rest of my life this way. It doesn't work.
Right.
Because if I keep doing the things the way they are, I'm going to have to drop this off when I graduate college and become a financier full time, because this shit ain't it for when you're working full time. It won't happen.
Yeah, and the little garbage puzzle. I now have a guy who I know and I talk to who speaks Serbo-Croatian. So like these videos are gonna get a lot easier to make, just because like I really fucking want to use like sources. Like I want to use primary sources, which I can't because translators are ass for like Serbo-Croatian, more like Slavic languages. They're shit because the grammatic structures are so different. So I needed to find someone who spoke Serbo-Croatian, and luckily I did. Who was willing to help me. So, and it's also just like such a fucking obscure topic that not a lot of people like. But I mean, the people who like it a lot. So that's what I kind of like. I have a lot of interaction on that video despite it not having a ton of views. But yeah, I do want to make more content centered around the war in Yugoslavia, particularly ethnic conflicts, which fascinate me to no end. But people don't really like history content that much. They'd rather listen to me talk about immigration law or something.
You know, I'm looking up something on Google Trends right now. I looked up twitch.tv, and this trend is really interesting. I'm going to share my screen with you, and I'm going to put it on screen as well on the stream. Do you see how like every day the stream, like the search is peaking around a certain time?
Yeah.
Looks like 2 a.m. for some reason. Today it's not peaking.
Is this UCT though, or is this like Eastern Standard?
It should be Eastern Standard.
That's weird that it peaks at like 4 a.m.
Yeah, that's another oddity that it seems is going on right now.
do we stream at 4 a.m.?
Yeah, I don't know. Kind of weird. But today it's not peaking for some reason. Like you're not seeing this upward trend. It's kind of leveling off.
That's weird. I don't know. Trends are really weird.
Yeah. Crazy.
Crazy. Uh-oh, leaked DMs. Leaked DMs.
Nobody can see it.
Oh, they can't? Okay, I thought...
I mean, they probably can see it a little bit.
Okay, I was hoping they didn't... Oh, they can't... Yeah, I mean, if you zoom in, you can kind of see the one video that I linked.
Yeah, not the greatest.
Actually, it was funny as shit, though.
Yeah. It's not on brand. Let's put it that way.
No, it's not.
That is not on brand.
It's not the audience for you.
No.
That's what I thought. I thought that might be UCT. Or like Greenwich Mountain Time. Sorry, not UCT.
It should not be. I'll look it up again.
Because it's like 3 a.m. It's like pretty close to like 1 or 2 GMT right now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do not know why. Well, when I go on Google, it's showing the right time, or when I go on the past hour. But when I go on past 4 hours, yeah, same. Who knows?
Interesting. Who knows?
Oh well, I think on that. Do you want to end it now on that note?
Yeah, we'll end it now. Thanks everybody.
Right. Yep, it's been a good stream. See you again next Sunday. Hopefully there's more of you next time around, and hopefully there'll be more of us as well. Thank you very much for the stream. Thank you,
Free
Pill
Palestine.
J, for donating, and free Israel.